I have other onion, don't you know? Oh god, escapee. No, it was onion, then not a pea. Sometimes I wonder about my mental health. Well, I am stood in the kitchen talking to myself, so yeah. Well, isn't the weather lovely? It might be. No idea when this is coming out, but I'm judging by how crap the weather's starting to get. When this comes out, it's going to be crap, really bad. Starting to go that way. So, I figured make a nice stew. Nice, hearty, warming stew. Someone asked me, on Instagram, not YouTube, why I always have folded up tea towels next to the hob. It's because I've got a lot of pans like this cast iron, and this cast iron, and I've got carbon steel and stainless steel pans that don't have heat protected handles, and they're just there, so I've always got, and I use them as oven gloves as well. So nice beef, hearty beef stew. We're going to do it in the oven, so we're going to turn the oven low. We want that on 150. We'll start it on the hob because we need to brown some meats and do some other bits and pieces. If you haven't got something that you can go from the hob to the oven with, you're going to have to start it off in a frying pan, then move it to a casserole dish or something that can go in the oven, and then put it in the oven. But you can, if you've got just a standard saucepan with a metal handle on it, that's fine. You can do this on top and then move that into the oven. That will go in the oven. Especially, you do need to have a lid on it though. You'll need something with a decently well-fitting lid. While I'm nattering away, why don't I be useful? Peel some veg. So this stew pack, vegetable selection pack, seasonal vegetables. A lot of places do this, or they might do a stew pack of veg. They're handy. Got some carrots, got a parsnip, a turnip. Is that a turnip or a swede? I don't know if that's a small swede or a weird shaped turnip. That's a swede, it's a small swede. And a pathetic little onion that looks a bit manky, but I've got other onion, so. If you ever got one of these sort of peelers, get yourself one of these sort of peelers. They just chomp through everything. And also they're good at making, say you want to make like ribbons of courgette or carrot for stir fries, salads, slaws. You can do that with these as well. So anyway, what I'll do is I'll probably cut until I've got everything else prepped, and we can reconvene here momentarily. Right, so we're not going to crazy thin dice anything. We're just going to chunk it all up. Maybe it's smaller than that. This is going to sound weird, but chop it to the sort of size of veg that you like to have in your mouth. I like a big chunk of hearty vegetable, but if you like it a finer dice, do a finer dice. You can put, say anything, not anything. So we're going to be cooking this in the oven for about 4 to 5 hours at least. So you don't want any veg that's just going to turn to mush and disappear. Hearty root vegetables. Carrots, parsnips, swedes, turnip woodwork, potatoes, if you some waxy potatoes, boiling potatoes, something that will again stand up to being cooked for a long time. You can add cauliflower, broccoli and stuff like that, but not, we can add anything to this, but you've got a time when you add it. So if you were to add broccoli or cauliflower at the same time as adding all these carrots, they're just going to disappear. They're going to turn to mush and dissolve into it. And also, because we're kind of making a stock at the same time around the meat, we've got to take into account the flavours. And broccoli, if you ever make stock, you never put broccoli or cauliflower or any of the brassicas. There is an exception to that. I think turnips are technically a brassica, or swedes. You never put any of them in a stock because they make it really bitter. Now you know. If you didn't know, you know now. If you wanted to add peas, again, you could do that, add it later. I may well be adding peas, I haven't made my mind up about this yet. But for now, what we're going to do is we're just getting together the basic aromatic vegetables, some herbs and spices, but actually no spices at this, well maybe some spices, I don't know, we'll figure it out. I'm freeballing this a little bit, because I really fancy making a stew and I had all the veg here. It's a great way of using up a load of this making stocks and soups. Oh, I'm going there. Andy Harry. And again, this time of year, now the weather's starting to draw in, so filling and fulfilling and warming. And it's just time. But you've not got to stand here spending a load of time over it. What I'm going to do is preheat our... First of all, we're going to sear off our meat in something. We're going to brown our meat. So we need, on the hob top, something you can fry a bit of meat in. Right, some celery. Get some garlic peeled while I've got the bits. I'm going to put in quite a lot of garlic, but that's not because I want it to taste garlicky. That's more because we're going to be cooking this for a long time. That garlic is going to mellow right out. Right, yeah, just going to rough chop. That's just a bit big, going down the middle of it. Rough chop our garlic as well. If you want to put this through a garlic press, you can. You don't need it completely. Like I said, it's going to be cooked so long, it doesn't need to. You don't need to worry it being what state it's really going to be in. It's probably mostly just going to melt away. The glug of olive oil in the bottom of our pan. Oh, I need another. I need you. So this is extra lean diced beef. You don't need a hell of a lot of fat in here, so you don't need fatty meat. You can have fatty meat if you want, but you just don't need to. You're cooking this for so long, so low in a braise, it's not going to dry out. So you don't need to worry about having that fat in there to compensate for a longer cooking time. What we are going to do though is we're going to brown this off. Sometimes people will coat the beef in flour, and they do that for one of two reasons. One, because it will kind of help this brown. It won't though, because the oil's browning the meat. Instead, you're just browning the flour. But it also does help thicken the gravy sauce stock that's going to go around all of this afterwards. But we're going to do that in other ways, because we're going to use stuff that's already kind of a bit thicker anyway. I'm not putting any pearl barley in here, but you can put pearl barley in here if you want. The only reason I'm not putting pearl barley in here is because I haven't got pearl barley. Because I love pearl barley in a stock, or in a stew, especially beef. You can swap out the beef for lamb, and keep everything else pretty much the exact same. Apart from one or two differences maybe. We're going to be using oxtail soup and beef stock to make up our sauce. I'd maybe not use oxtail soup, and maybe if you can get hold of lamb stock, use lamb stock. Beef stock's just as fine though. It's not going to taste of beef instead of lamb. You could make a chicken casserole or stew. Obviously use chicken stock, but other than that, this works with any meat or no meat. If you want to switch out everything for vegetable stock and just have a vegetable stew, that's just as high. I would maybe, before we're going to serve it, add something in there like chickpeas or lentils. Cook the chickpeas in there the whole time if you're using raw. If you're using a tin of chickpeas, chuck them in there in the last half an hour just to warm them through. Just so that you've got something in there that adds to that protein. So, our first batch of beef. Got a nice bit of colour on it. So we're going to take that out, do the same with the next lot. And we jump cut to that being done. So, second batch of beef, nice and browned. I'm going to drop the heat right down. Fish all that out. Right, now this step, optional. I'm going to deglaze that pan with a splash of red wine. Any red wine will do. This is a nice yellow label Cabernet Sauvignon, but I've just had it sat on the side for a while, so I figured I'd use it up. If you don't want to deglaze with some alcohol, if you're not going to use any alcohol, just go straight in with your veg now. But I'm going to just splash of this. Scrape up the bottom, all that lovely, lovely fond, and this stuff on the side here. Right, so it won't look much red wine at all, probably half a glass, not even that. Just a bit of lubrication to get all that down. Now we're going to go in with all our veg. Watch yourself because this might splash a bit. And a tablespoon of tomato paste. This is in there because we ain't going to taste any tomato. Oh, it's in there more to add a bit of sweetness and a bit of acidity. There's no real. This isn't going to be a tomato stew. Put a tablespoon or two in amongst all of it. Right, so mix that all up. Get the veg scrape here. Use the veg to scrape up around the edges as well. That tomato a bit well distributed. Make sure everything's looking good. So now we are going in with, go back in with the meat and any juices that may have accumulated. Like I said, this is lean fat, so that was mostly just beef juice, for want of a better phrase. So this is a 5 litre pot. So I'm making a lot of stew. If you've only got a smaller pot, halve everything that I've put in here, by all means. Also, use a slow cooker as well. You'd have to brown the meat in a pan first, but then whack everything in the slow cooker. Unless you're, I think some fancy slow cookers have a brown setting, don't they? I'm not sure. So now, liquids. We're adding a tin of oxtail soup. We're adding a tin of oxtail soup because my logic is that someone else has already gone out there and made a really flavoursome beef-based dish. Why don't we use that to add to ours? And this is 450 grams. No, it's probably half a litre, ain't it? Oh, it would be, yeah. 500 grams is half a litre of liquid, of water at least. So we are going to add half a litre of this. If you want to buy this is the chilled stuff that's gelatinous and beefy. If you wanted to use the shelf-stable stuff that doesn't need to be kept in the fridge, well, by all means, make your own beef stock. Right, and what I've just realised I haven't done, made up some stock. Standard vegetable stock, I just made it with a stock cube, but we're just going to pour in until, slowly so it doesn't splash everywhere, cover everything up. Just everything get to know each other. Right, so now all that's left is get yourself I'll say a sprig of thyme, but yeah, there you go, 2 decent sized sprigs of thyme and a couple of decent sprigs of rosemary. Beautiful. And that's about a heaped teaspoon of smoked paprika. And last but not least, Worcestershire sauce. It's about a tablespoon of that. Season pepper. Right, now, salt. I'm gonna add just a decent pinch at the moment. Not too much, because we've added stock in there that we haven't made ourselves, so we don't know how salty that is. Same with the soup. So what we're going to do is just add a little bit of salt to compensate for all that veg and meat in there that hasn't been seasoned. But we're going to need to taste this at the end just to check the seasoning at the end, because we could quite easily over salt it at this stage. Right, so now, I would also add a bay leaf, a couple of bay leaves. I couldn't get hold of them. And my bay leaf tree has died, as has been previously mentioned. So, get the herbs stuffed down in there. Everything's in there, lovely jobby. Now, whack the lid on, which is got up here. Whack the lid on, kick the spurs to it. Now, I'm going to bring that to the boil and whack it in my 150-degree oven, and then forget about it for 4 to 5 hours. I might check on it at 2.5 just to give it a bit of a stir, but on the whole, you don't even really need to do that. That's why we're using the oven, because you get heat all around it instead of just coming from the bottom. Now you can do this on the hob alone if you want. Put it on your smallest burner there is, really low, just to maintain that very small burble. But you will have to stir it every half an hour or so. Otherwise the stuff at the bottom is right on top of that heat source. It's going to cook a lot quicker than all the stuff at the top. So that's the benefits of using the oven or the slow cooker. The slow cooker provides the same all-around heat. So we're just going to get that up to a boil before we whack it into the oven. Otherwise, it will take a month of Sundays to come up to a boil. So we have achieved the boil. Turn the heat off and put her away in the oven. God, that's heavy. On 150, and we're going to forget about it I'm going to check it after 2.5, 3 hours. Just give it a little stir. But 4, 5 hours, that'll be fine in there for that long. Even longer. Might want to turn it down to 100 if you're going to leave it in there for longer than 5 hours. But see you when it's ready. Welcome back. It is 5 hours later. So I took the lid off of it about an hour ago, maybe an hour and a half, just let it thicken up a little bit, see how much it's reduced. It's that nice and thick. Get yourself a nice bowl, something to serve it with. Beauty. You might want to get rid of the twigs, but look how tender that bit of beef is. It's just pulling apart. Everything's nice and cooked. Beautiful, hearty winter warmer. Stuck it in the oven and just forgot about it for 5 hours. It could have gone in there for probably another 5 hours. Maybe not with the lid off though. Fish out the bits of twigs before you serve it, obviously, but there you go. Quick, simple. Give it a taste now. If it's all right, serve it up. You might want to put a bit more salt, maybe a bit more pepper in there, but feed a family of 8 with that, really. If you give it a bit, maybe serve it with a bit of mash or some potatoes. Bush, Robert's your mother's brother. Bob's your uncle. So, like I said, lovely. Now the weather's starting to get a bit crapper, the days are starting to draw in. Nice, warm, comforting beef stew. Chuck some pearl barley in there if you want, but it will thicken it up a lot more, so you might want to put a bit more food in there. Dumplings, if you want to buy dumpling mix, buy them, make them up, chuck them in on top. I prefer them on top with the lid on top so they crisp up a little bit. But if you just want them the suety sort of ones that sit down on the bottom, do whatever pleases you. Yeah, so if you want to give it a like. I mean, what's not to like? What's not to like? Give us a comment give us a comment below. Let us know what your favourite winter warmer comfort food is. But I'm going to go have a nice glass of wine with my stew, and I'm going to relax for the rest of the evening. So I'll see you when I see you.